go, man.
Hey, wanker!
Oi, dickhead.
He's pissed. He's pissed. Here you am.